In the news this week, sinking feeling. West Aussies have their say on whether they feel a recession is underway. A WA News exclusive.
The Prime Minister's 4-day WA tour overshadowed with cost of living and inflation questions. And Perth's brand new electric bus hits the road in the city. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
This is The Evening News with Ivan Loon and Maliva Thorne.
Good evening. An exclusive WA News opinion poll is ongoing right now, seeking your perspective on whether you feel a recession is underway. The question is, do you feel like you're living in a recession in Western Australia right now? So far, almost 90% of participants says yes, it feels like it, while over 10% says no, they're doing fine. The opinion poll will continue until next Friday. Former Liberal leader and Cottesloe MP David Honey joined me earlier to discuss the initial results. David, thanks for joining us briefly. Almost all our participative viewers are having a bit of a sinking feeling when it comes to recession. What do you think of it?
Well, look, I think they're pretty accurate. Any of you that are students of the ABC, dare I mention an opposition channel, although I know they're good mates of yours, Ivan, but Alan Kohler has done some good work on this, and there's been a lot of published data. The truth is that there has been a recession for the average household because people's average disposable income has been going backwards for some time. So you hear these figures about the economy growing and there's been GDP growth. That's only because of the massive rates, and I say massive rates of migration, 50% increase under this Labor government. But in fact, the ordinary person's disposable income has been going backwards. And I've got first-hand experience of this. I've had one of my kids and his partner move back into home because they couldn't afford the rent. They were seeing $50 month-on-month rent increases and, around that. And they just couldn't afford it, and they've had to move back home because they can't afford to rent an apartment. So, yep, I reckon people are really feeling it, and I hear that in my office pretty well daily as well.
Just very quickly, do you believe the numbers will change during the week?
Well,
isn't that sad?
Yeah, look, there are a couple of levels to that, Ivan. One, how does that help people who are struggling? The people who are struggling aren't paying tax anyway, so tax relief is meaningless. And of course these power rebates, I'll tell you the joke of the power rebates. I've got several billionaires in my electorate. They get the same rebate, but do you know what? Someone who's homeless, someone who's sleeping rough, sleeping in their car every night, do you know what they get? Zero. So you've got a federal and a state government that are giving money to billionaires, but not giving the relief to those people who are doing it toughest. This is crazy stuff. I think governments have got a role to support the people that are doing it tough, and they should be doing that, but don't just do election bribes, which is, let's face it, that federal power rebate and the state power rebate are election bribes. They just want to bribe you with money so you'll vote for them. Meanwhile, anyone who looks at the numbers, that your underlying power charges, even for people who are getting that power rebate, the underlying power charges under this government vastly exceed the rebates that they've given. So the underlying charges are up. You're not actually, and you know it, you know what you're paying for your power and your water and the like.
This opinion poll will continue until next weekend, and we'll bring you the results as it happens. In the meantime, thanks for joining us this week, David.
Yeah, cheers, Ivan. I'm looking forward with great interest.
The Prime Minister has visited Perth this week during a 4-day blitz in Western Australia. Cost of living continues to be a major problem for many West Australian families, with expenses higher than ever. Many presumed the country was headed for a major recession, but that may not be the case just yet. Paige Reid reports.
The Prime Minister visited WA this week to check up on how the state is doing in the run-up to the election. He visited Mount Lawley High School to talk about some issues that WA families are facing. Prime Minister Albanese says that compared to other countries around the world, Australia is doing it tough, but not nearly as badly as some people think.
I also know that this isn't unique to Australia, that global inflation has had an impact, and in many parts of the world, including whether it be big economies like the UK or smaller economies in our region like Palau, they hit double-digit inflation.
Federal Treasurer Jim Chalmers revealed that in the last June quarter, Australia's economic growth was only 0.2%, the weakest growth since 2020. State government officials emphasise that WA has a very strong economic performance compared to other states, and they do not believe Western Australia is headed towards a recession. Minister Don Punch says WA has a very strong economy compared to other states around the country, and he does not believe the country is headed towards a recession.
Everywhere I go in Western Australia, there is a positive vibe about the economy, but we know cost of living is a major agenda, and that's really driven by forces outside of Western Australia's control.
Punch says the state is in a very good position to deal with whatever comes its way. Prime Minister Albanese says that whilst families are struggling, the Cook Labor government have put in place certain schemes to assist with these struggles.
The energy price relief, $700 of support here in WA, making a difference. Cheaper childcare for 1.2 million families. The people who are enjoying fee-free TAFE, who will visit in a short while, are benefiting from that as well, getting skills whilst taking the need to have pay for their courses off the agenda.
Treasurer Chalmers says the government are continuing to manage the economy in the most responsible way, with the primary focus being on the cost of living. Paige Reid, WAMN News.
One Nation has announced that they are ready and able to contest the next WA election. Pauline Hanson's One Nation will compete in the upcoming WA election next year, following the party's successful registration with the WA Electoral Commission. Rod Caddies, WA's party leader, will spearhead the campaign after receiving endorsement from Senator Pauline Hanson. Caddies emphasised that the party will put their policy focus on housing, energy and cost of living.
We're in a housing crisis. We're in we've got juvenile justice crisis, we've got a health crisis, we've got a police crisis, we've got, the cost of living, the reduced living standards. It's just terrible. So, yeah, I think I can make a difference. I worked in the One Nation team in Parliament between 2017 and 21, and I know how we held them accountable there in Parliament, and I believe I can do that. So I think that's my main reason. I think I can make a difference for the state of WA.
The WA government is seeking to make regional roads safer with an extra $32.5 million in funding to be injected into the Road Trauma Trust account over the coming 4 years. The funding will be spread across a wide range of initiatives such as enforcement, data gathering and road infrastructure. The Cook government recently held a roundtable with advocates and road safety experts that was intended to look at fresh methods to make WA roads safer. It came after WA recorded its worst road toll in the last 12 months since the year 2016, almost a decade ago. $8.6 million is going towards 2 new buses for drug and breath testing, as well as the operating expenses to deploy them in regional WA. Furthermore, regional police will receive $2.1 million in funding to provide more police traffic enforcement, as well as high visibility livery for police vehicles.
Recreational fishers can expect to see more yellowtail kingfish in their catches, as more than 150,000 have been released into metropolitan waters over the past 4 years. The final 15,000 were released this week off the Fremantle Sailing Club, marking the conclusion of the Cook government's Recreational Fishing Initiative Fund project. The Department of Primary Industry and Regional Development, in collaboration with Recfish West, has raised 150,000 finger lines at the Fremantle Marine Finfish Hatchery for the project. Fisheries Minister Don Punch expressed his gratitude for the efforts of the department and Recfish West in enhancing stock of yellowtail kingfish, providing more fishing opportunities across WA.
Enjoying our beautiful southwest, nothing better than spending time in the forest with your family and friends, wetting a line. Trout can be quite elusive. You've got to look for them and you've got to hunt them out, and you get to travel around through all of the different regions, whether it's on the rivers or whether it's at the dams. There's great places out there. Experience the great outdoors and get all the well-being benefits that come with mental health and that sort of quality time with one's family.
Perth's brand new electric public bus has hit the road this weekend with the media on board on the first journey. The 100% electric bus's ride is much smoother and more responsive compared to traditional gas and diesel powered buses. The bus will operate on the Perth CAT routes in the CBD, with 17 additional electric buses expected to be rolled out by mid-next year. The new fleet is part of a joint $250 million initiative between the state and Commonwealth governments to deliver 130 electric buses and upgrade transport infrastructure. Each electric bus, capable of travelling up to 300 kilometres on a single charge, is expected to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by around 40 tonnes annually. Charging infrastructure has already been installed at the Elizabeth Quay bus depot, and further upgrades are planned at depots across Perth, supporting 100 local jobs.
And now here's Dr. Andrew Miller with his weekly medical and news commentary.
Hi, thanks for your time. You can probably see I've had a bit of a skin cancer nipped out of my nose there last week. Timely reminder that for those of us with particularly pale skin who've remember our childhood summers as being one sunburn, then peel, and then calamine lotion, and then recycle after another, that it's very important to get regular skin checks from your GP and to be acting on anything that changes on your skin and get that sorted out. These kind of seemingly harmless summers that we had as kids are perhaps coming back to bite us, and other things that seem harmless is doing a bit of gardening. So make sure you cover up and avoid the reflected UV as well when you're out on the water or down at the beach. Also, we got a warning this week from the health department about potting mix, which seems like a fairly innocent thing to be using in the garden, but a reminder that it can cause a particular type of Legionella infection, which can make you very sick indeed, severe flu-like symptoms, and needs some sort of treatment. So worth making sure that you wear particularly a decent mask. We learned about those during the pandemic and how they can protect our lungs. And in these circumstances also very effective to wear a well-fitted disposable face mask and gloves whilst using potting mix. Keep the potting mix damp is the advice, and make sure that we don't store it in the sun itself so that it's breeding those nasties. And wash your hands before you take your mask off after using it. These kind of things might seem like they're being a little bit overly protective, but as doctors we're used to meeting people who thought that things would be simple but turned out to be very inconvenient, affecting not just their work life and their home life, but also perhaps making them sick for the long term. So really worth just taking care of yourselves out there as we head back into summer. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Doctor. Now, speaking of hitting the road, I understand you, Ivan, went to the first ride of the new electric bus.
Very smooth indeed. So definitely something that I would enjoy for a very long time. In fact, it's not as jiggly as the gas and diesel buses. I understand it. There's one thing you won't miss. What is that?
Definitely the fumes. I will not miss that. And now here's what's coming up on 6 News tonight.
Thank you very much, guys. The top stories we're following on 6 News right now. Jim Chums confirms that the 2026 census will introduce a new section that covers sexual orientation and gender. The Hunter Valley bus driver is set to come face to face with his victims more than a year on after the horrific crash. And the Northern Territory Greens are still celebrating after picking up their first ever seat. Join us on the hour, every hour, live on the 6 News YouTube channel. For now though, guys, it's back to you.
Thank you very much, and that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wamnnews.com.au.
Remember to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wamnnews.com.au/news/extra. From Melly, Paige, Peter and myself, wish you good health, good night. See you next Sunday.
Thanks for watching.